Alright, so this is going to be a guide for those among us who are having a really bad time trying to farm for the various parts that make RAILJACK somewhat interesting. For example, those of us who are not able to get battle avionics like Particle Ram, Seeker Volley, Void Hole, Munitions Vortex, those kinds of things. Those of us who are unable to get a Vidar Reactor Mark III, especially one with a good roll, because there are some of us who managed to get a Vidar Reactor Mark III but ended up with a plus 30 roll, which is just absolutely abysmal. Basically, this guide is going to be for all of us. For this video, I have refitted my ship with some less than ideal parts, but at least we can then have a look at different ways of making sure that we are still somewhat effective in RAILJACK without losing our minds. So, I am using a ZK Reactor Mark III, which is by far not the ideal kind of reactor that you want, until my harmonized reactor idea actually goes into full effect, and that's if it actually goes into full effect. The ZK reactors are just straight up worse than every other reactor in the game. But I have managed to pick up a plus 49 avionics capacity reactor. Now, ZK reactors do drop a lot more often than your Lavins and especially your Vidars, so whilst you might not be able to get the god tier Vidar roll just yet, you might still be able to make do with something from the ZK house. Or alternatively, you could just use the Sigma reactor, which will always be better than the ZK reactor, because the Sigma reactor, when built, gives you plus 50 avionics capacity. The only thing I like about the ZK reactor over the Sigma, of course, is that it does have a side effect, which in this case is going to be a chance to extinguish a fire when it shows up. Now, in terms of the weapons, I think the real question you should ask yourself is, how do you want to deal with cruise ships? Do you want to blow them up with your space laser, or do you want to just board them and kill them? If you want to board them and kill them, then this is probably the way you want to go. You want to use something like a ZK Cryophon Mark III to kill other fighter ships, because the ZK Cryophon is going to be a lot more effective than a Karkanox, for example. But if you want to blow up a cruise ship, you're going to need a Karkanox, for example, the Levan Karkanox that I already have. That won't drop as often as a ZK Cryophon though, so perhaps for the time being, it's probably more appropriate that you're using a Cryophon over a Karkanox. And depending on how well you're keeping up with cruise ships, you might actually need a side gun, no matter how good or bad, just to pop healing bubbles as well. So here is an avionics grid that I think you could potentially use in the Veil Proxima that's still going to be rather effective. So we're not using anything rare, we're not using, say, the ZK bulkhead, we're not using any of that stuff. Everything here should be pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I want to comment on is the use of the warhead from the Vidar house, specifically because we're also going to be relying a lot more than usual on our Tycho Seeker Mark III. Normally, the Tycho Seeker is just there, it's just an offshoot extra weapon that I can just play around with, but when you don't have things like Void Hole, when you don't have things like Munitions Vortex, Warhead and the Tycho Seeker Mark III become a lot more important as part of your overall power. So we're going to be chilling at Gyan Point, which is like the easiest, most straightforward RAILJACK mission in the game. So it's just kill a bunch of ships, kill a bunch of cruise ships, and we're done. That's really what we're going to be doing in this particular video.
On scope. Multiple bogies. Man the guns.
With the Cryophon, you're going to want to stay close to your ships because it is sort of cold shotgun type weapon, as accurately pointed out. Against an Outrider, you're going to still want to aim for those red weak spots. Just like that. Just like that. Against Exo Cutters, you can sometimes one-shot them. The elite Exo Cutters probably are going to be a 3-shotter. Basically, against Exo Fighters, you're probably going to need 3 shots. Against normal fighters, quote-unquote unelite fighters, you can probably get by with just 1 shot, no problem. So I suppose an effective way of dealing with elite fighters instantly is to just simply use your Tycho Seeker. Guaranteed 1 shot most of the time. For some reason that didn't work. I think it actually hit a countermeasure. Like it hit a flare. So I suppose another thing that you could potentially do, which is really simple, is find a crew. When the cruise ship showed up, I'm instantly going into full boarding mode because cruise ships with the healing bubble are going to be really problematic if I get overrun by them because, again, I'm using a Cryophon, I'm not using a Karkanox. Okay, we have a bunch of enemies there.
Team, stand by for air support. I need someone patching those hull ruptures. Move it.
Now the reason why I've chosen to use fire suppression as the only tactical avionic that I'm bothering to put on my ship is because fire suppression actually works in two ways. Number one, obviously, you get to fix your ship, which is great. But number two, it also kind of acts as free Revelite. Because now I've fixed my ship in terms of fires without having to use any extra Revelite. So that's really, really good. Revelite is actually pretty valuable. Not because it's hard to build and not because it's expensive or anything, but just because if you run out of Revelite, you lose. That's it. Keep an eye out for the resources that you get. You're looking out for mainly carbides and copper nicks because that's how you build munitions. More munitions means more rockets means more one-shotting things like elite fighters. Unless you whiff, of course. If you find that an enemy fighter ship is being healed too much, just blow it up with the Tycho Seeker. That'll do it. And the Cryophon apparently can just brute force that as well, so that's pretty good. Now there are several things you can do with the cruise ship when you board it. You could potentially do the cruise ship farm method, where you essentially get yourself an immobilized cruise ship. But since we're using a Cryophon, and since cruise ships are really annoying to deal with, we're actually not going to be doing that because they actually end up still spawning those healing clouds and they still throw ram sleds at you, so that's not a good idea at all. So basically, when a cruise ship shows up, target it, blow it up instantly.
Your cruise ship has translated the Insectia.
By blowing up the cruise ship instantly, we don't have to deal with any more ram sleds, we don't have to deal with any more healing bubbles. It's just so much better. Once we get rid of this cruise ship, we just have to deal with fighters, and that's rather easy actually. So definitely cruise ships are a priority if you're by yourself, even if you're not by yourself. If you happen to have a crew, typically the ones with the arc wings are going to end up targeting the cruise ships for you anyway. Gotta fix up my ship now.
Ram sled launch. Optimists inbound.
What was that, dying breath? Ah.
We have been boarded. Here is the B team. Team, stand by for offensive support. Scratch one cruise ship. Orders neutralized.
Fun fact, it looks like my Cryophon is actually a lot more effective at killing these Outriders than my Karkanox ever was. My Karkanox will actually take quite a while just to pop those red weak spots. So, you know, really says something when you actually know about those weak spots, eh? Actually, I wonder. They're all lined up.
Electrical hazard. Shield integrity
That's totally unnecessary, by the way.
Enemy morale has broken.
That's it, we're done.
Fighters are peeling off.
And I got myself a Levant shield away.
Warm up. Objectives met.
Whew. And that took a grand total of 34 minutes, 34 seconds. That's wrong. about 23 minutes, that's how long it took. So let's review. If you don't have things like Particle Ram and Seeker Volley, then you're really going to have to rely on just doing a lot of single target damage. So that's why we're focusing on using something like a Cryophon. That's why we're using something like the Tycho Seeker Mark III when it actually decides to hit. Because we're using a Cryophon, cruise ships are going to pose a much bigger problem. That's why we're going to have to destroy the cruise ships as soon as possible, whether that be by boarding or by blowing them up with a laser. Because we're choosing to use the Cryophon, that's probably going to mean we're going to board them instead. And that's really it. Otherwise, again, shortest answer is find a crew, because again, you'll be able to find some people really easily. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. If you have any questions about anything here, feel free to leave it in the comments. I will try to get back to them as quickly as I can. Otherwise, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye!